Hi, Jeffrey Scott here with our next podcast, The Ultimate Landscape CEO. Our guest is Craig Attkisson. Craig's a couple year client, met him just a couple years ago, co owner of Green Side Up Landscaping. They have two branches in Richmond and Williamsburg, Virginia. They're $5 million, 20 years old, 36 employees, 60% maintenance, 10% enhancements, 30% design build, mostly residential. Craig is a unique fellow. There's only 5% of people out in the leadership world that are just like Craig. And I'll tell you what I mean in a second. Craig takes 2 months off, or he's planning on taking 2 months off this year in month long segments. He's going to explain to you, as co owner of his company, why he does it, why he started doing it, and how how it benefits not only him, but the company when he gets back to work. Since working with Craig, I've given him permission to work on the business, and he'll explain what he does now. He is both a visionary and an integrator. So, CEO, leader, but also integrator, general manager of the business. And there's only 5% of people that can actually have both of those, wear both of those hats and do them well. And he's an excellent GM, he's an excellent implementer. He has developed a high tech, high touch business. Now, you may or may not have heard that expression before. It's very important. The more tech you use, the more high touch you need. He will explain his whole philosophy of customer service. He's fanatical about it. It's great when you hear him talk about it and how he's implemented that in his business. He has two partners. He's a third, they're each a third, and he explains their complementary skill set, why he first brought them into his business, and how it's really benefited him. He's also developed a team first atmosphere, including profit sharing, bonuses, etc. He'll explain how he's gone about that and the value of that. He has been a member of a high impact peer group, and he's going to explain a bit of his experience with that. And, we really cover some very specifics like automation and other things he's done in his business to allow him to scale the business and take time away from the business. In the end, we talk about some of his favorite hobbies and his healthy habits that he and his wife follow. Him and I have some things in common that we like to do, that I like to do, that he likes to do. This is a smart guy, and it's a very fascinating podcast. Let's jump right in. Hey, Craig, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Looking forward to this time with you.
So let's jump right in, Craig. I've known you for a couple of years here, but introduce yourself. Tell the audience about your business.
So my name is Craig Attkisson with Green Side Up Landscaping. We have two branches. One is in Richmond, Virginia. The other is in Williamsburg, Virginia. We are mostly a residential maintenance company. We do some design build work. 70% of what we do is residential maintenance related. The rest of it is design install related. And I have two partners that we run this operation. So three of us together run this operation.
So you are the client who I would say has made the fastest progress, and so we're going to jump into that. Um, and so I met you 2 years ago, but first a little bit of history. How did you start? How did you take on your two partners?
Yeah, so I started, most like every landscaper in the world, probably. I started when I was 10 years old. There were some local ball fields really close to my house. I started cutting grass. I had to drive on the road a couple miles to go cut grass, and I cut all the way until mid college. Until I was 21, I saved, for the first 21 years of my life, I saved every nickel that I made doing that.
Hmm.
I went to school, thought I was going to be in the golf course world. It didn't work out as planned. In fact, going to my pick up my tuxedos for my wedding, my truck frame rusted in half. So I knew that I had to get a new truck. So if I had to get a new truck, might as well start a business. I think it goes hand in hand. I'm not really sure, but so in my dad's eyes, I made the biggest financial mistake of my life. In one weekend, I spent all the money that I had saved for 21 years and bought a truck and a trailer and a mower. And that was the start of Green Side Up. It just happened when I left the golf course world. My immediate boss, I told him, I was like, on the way out, I was like, hey, in 2 years, I'm going to call you and you can come on as a partner. And he laughed me off. He's like, oh, I'm going to be a superintendent by then. Everything will be good. 2 years, almost to the day, I was sitting in his living room and saying, hey, I need you. I can't wear every hat in this business. I can't sell. I can't produce. I can't do all these things. He said, that's absolutely fine. I'll come on, but I need a certain amount of money to make this work. I said, well, I haven't pulled a salary or any dime out of this company in 2 years. But we'll make something work. So we worked it out. That was a good relationship. He was very good with the people management side. I was better on the sales and business side. 2 years later, his brother, twin brother, was working for a landscaper in Williamsburg, and he needed an exit from where he was at, and we brought him on as a partner. So he runs our Williamsburg. We started up a whole Williamsburg division, our whole branch.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the history of how we got to where we're at.
Wow. So how many years ago did you bring on the partners?
So one was 18 years ago, and one was probably 16 years ago.
Okay.
So
they've
it's
really
been a
been with
relationship.
you. They've been there the whole time, really.
Correct. Yeah.
And when did you get married? How many years ago?
That was my first marriage, and that was in 2003.
So she couldn't handle being married to a landscaper, huh?
I don't know how to answer that, but she was, starting any landscaping, but any business at the startup is challenging. It's a lot of stressors, a lot of time. So it didn't work out.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why you're so focused on your free time now. We've spent a lot of time together, Craig, and yet right now, today, I'm learning new things about you.
That's right. That's right.
And so is that why you're very focused on freeing up your time?
I think I took a little bit of that from that aspect, that phase of my life, but I think also from the golf course world. Golf course world, you had to work weekends. And after you work all this time, there's no time left in the rest of the week. And no matter how you slice it, life is short.
Yeah.
And if it's a lot of pressure in our industry to work weekends, to definitely Saturday. Maybe you get Sunday off, but definitely Saturday. Every landscaper I know works Saturdays. We don't. It's just part of our culture. It's kind of who we are. And that came from the golf course world. When I left the golf course industry, I said, I will never work a weekend that I don't want to work. And I've lived up to that.
Yeah. So when I met you 2 years ago, I think approximately, your big, hairy, audacious goal was, I want to take a month off and go traveling. And you were able to do that within how many months?
Yeah. Not too far off out of that. I like the concept of a big red X. You put a big red X on the month and then you can take that off. My wife now is a teacher and she has the summer off, so that we have a very concentrated time when she is available to go traveling. So we try to maximize that. It's kind of past the spring rush, so we get to kind of plan and work around it. I've been very intentional to put in my personal stuff into the calendar and build everything else around it. And I think that otherwise you just get overwhelmed by the day-to-day that you'll never have time for yourself or for your family or for vacation or travel or anything like that.
And so remind me or tell the audience where you went.
Yeah. So just as a reminder, I didn't go straight to, prior to having the goal of taking a month off, I had kind of incrementally kind of worked my way up 1 week, 2 week, 3 week. The first month at a time, I went to Australia for a month and toured around the whole East Coast of Australia. This summer, I went to Italy for a month. So I took time doing that. This winter, we're going to go to Peru and Chile. for a month. So maybe now I've kind of graduated from 1 month a year to maybe 2 months, but kind of spread out in the slower times of the year.
As I recall, I gave you permission to do that, and maybe that's not how you remember it. Maybe my memory's off as well, but it seemed like when, again, you're going to correct me here if I'm wrong, but it seemed like you got permission to be the GM working on the business, pulling out of in the business, and you went after it like a dog with a bone and caught that, or a dog chasing a car and caught that car very quickly.
That, when we did coaching with you, I famously say now, a lot of my peer group members, I went into that coaching event with you thinking that we were going to tweak around the edges, and I came out pretty ego busted and bruised a little bit. But I think some of it needed to be said. The biggest takeaway from that was you gave me permission to be out of sales, a role that I had had from the very beginning, and to be a GM. Previous to that, I was working on the systems of the business for the 2 months in the off season. And I think it was realized that we were never going to go forward as a company if I was only working on the systems of the business 2 months of the year, as opposed to working on it all year long. So that was, and it's kind of a unique situation. I'm an owner, but I'm also the GM now. And so, the GM leaving the business for a good amount of time is, I don't know that it's usual, but it's, in our situation, it works. With having 3 partners, it's a different dynamic too. There's other authoritative figures around all the time.
Yeah. So you say you got your ego bruised. I mean, is that because you're a smart dude, which you are, or is it because, man, it's you and 2 partners, things are pretty smooth, or was it something else?
It was just you ask why. And sometimes you don't know the answer to the why. And sometimes you're trying to sound smart and have a good answer for the why, and you don't even know what your why is. So in my head, my little hamster was running around in circles like, why are we doing it this way? I mean, when you start questioning things, because you don't know us, you're trying to get to know us better. It's pretty challenging. I do appreciate that we did come out with a lot of vision, a lot of clarity, mainly on roles. And even that one change of me being a GM and working on the business and not having to participate in all the day-to-day littleness has allowed me to build the system to just rock and roll. And that's what that's the bone that I picked up and ran with.
Yeah.
Because our company is different because of it, and we can change because of it.
You are a unique individual, and according to one book, you are among the 5% of people that are both CEO visionaries and the GM implementer. You have both hats. And so how have you always realized that was your superpower? Because we certainly figured that out, and you really use that now as your superpower.
I do use it now. I did not know that. I think it's in Rocket Fuel, correct? Is that the book where they kind of lay that out?
Yeah.
We read that in the peer group, and I was wildly confused. When you read one section, like, yes, that's kind of me. And then you read the other section, yeah, that's kind of me. And then you read that little tiny micro paragraph at the end is like, yeah, and there's 5% of people that are both. And that was actually a lot of clarity to me to understand that I did have both sides of the coin. And now knowing that, it actually helps me manage me better. Like, there are times when I'm better at being a visionary. Like, I'll go out on a walk almost every morning, just listening to meditation music and walking in the dark. And that's where my best thoughts on where we're going, why we're doing it. I'm asking the why in advance, you know what I mean? And how in advance now. And so there's times that I have found, even in my day-to-day, there's times that I'm better visionary. And then in the crux of the day, I'm a better implementer. All right, these are the cool ideas I had over here, and let me put them into place. It was very telling. I realized that there was a juggling act that I had to perform, because usually there's that dynamic between the implementer and the visionary to sort out all the stuff that's really bad. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're that sorting happens between the left and the right part of my brain, I think. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of internal stuff that I'm dealing with. You know, you're trying to sort through what's practical and what's not. You can have a lot of great ideas, but what's actually going to work?
It's wow. You know what? You reminded me of something. I once worked with a coach. She was almost like a shrink, and she said to me, "Jeff, you have equal parts left and right brain, and that will either screw you up, or until you learn how to manage that, and then it'll become your superpower." And she said, "Right now, it's screwing you up," and that was for me a big aha. Are you kind of saying the same thing?
Absolutely. I didn't know it until we read that book.
Mm.
And then when I realized that there's two different, in life, you only know yourself. You don't know how other people think. You just know how you think. So I thought I was normal, but having both sides, I just didn't understand that. And now I understand that it is my superpower. Now, I think I've gotten better because I'm learning how to harness it.
Do your partners say, "Okay, Craig, which one of you is showing up today in the meeting?"
No, I do use them to help in that sorting of ideas process. You know what I mean? If I don't run it past them, I'm surely running past what I'm pretty sure that they're going to say, because I've worked with them for 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think I do use them as a filter. I run stuff past them. Hey, does this make sense? Would this work? Does this make sense? And having partners is a challenge. Everyone brings different things to the table. I'm not as good with people, but they are, but I'm better with the business side of things. So it's good to kind of have that checks and balances. They have saved my butt a ton of times because they're more conservative than I am.
Mm.
I'm more aggressive, but in the past there's lumps in our business. You know what I mean? And if we would have taken my more aggressive path, we would have been in problems.
Yeah.
But again, there's pros and cons to everything.
All right. So you use the ownership team like a visionary might use an integrator. You use them to filter your ideas, and then you bring them back to the integrator side of you.
Yeah.
And implement. That's interesting. Okay, I like that. That's
Yeah.
really what a good leadership team does for any company, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my dad is maybe he's a super integrator. That's what his world was. So I'm definitely got that from him. Not sure where the visionary part came from. Actually, my mom's kind of a dreamer. So maybe it's mom and dad. Maybe it makes perfect sense.
So let's talk about your company a little bit. What does your company do uniquely well?
We are really focused on our residential clients. We're super high touch. We're super high communication, making sure that they're getting taken care of. I mean, that's most of our business is relationship built because we're residential. They want to know that they're being taken care of and patted on the back and making sure that everything is just so. So that's we use a lot of technology in doing so. A lot of I'm a pretty big systems guy. So having stuff that's automated that kind of lets people know that we're there and what we've done and why we did it, and kind of making sure that they know that we haven't fallen asleep at the wheel. And that's I think a lot of people that we pick up as new clients said they just gotten forgotten, or they're something along those lines. So we want to make sure that that's not a situation with what we do.
So what I just heard is that you're high tech and high touch, which I think is critical. You can't just take the high tech escalator up to the top. You've got to bring the high touch in equal amounts. So give us an example because I know you're high tech. So give us an example of how you make your clients feel, highly communicated to and feeling the touch.
Yeah, we do, post-service communication, letting people know exactly what we did. If there was any concerns of any sort, we have site audits on all of our properties. We have a program called the Customer for Life visits that we're visiting the property with the owner, just kind of walking the whole property, just making sure that we're present. You know what I mean? And we have a direct point of contact for those. I mean, you would call it an account manager.
Yeah.
But just making sure that they know. I put myself, what would I want? If I'm the homeowner, how would I want this situation to be?
Yeah.
Is this too much communication, not enough communication? At some point, you want to improve your property. I really want to be pressing the easy button for our clients every step of the way.
So that takes technology. So tell me how you're a technology forward company.
Yep, people can schedule on our website, pick the time right now that they can meet a contractor that we will show up at their house, no questions asked. I know this is it may be commonplace now, but 10 years ago we were doing it, no one was doing it. So from that standpoint, we want people to, I keep telling all my web developers that I want it to be so easy that they could fall on the keyboard and they would schedule a meeting that we would show up to. So again, electronic proposals, which is almost commonplace now. Again, just making this seamless throughout the whole process. Welcome communication, even after we sell the job, communication, letting them know who their point of contact is, what to expect, how this is all going to go down. Just being on top of the small details in a residential world. If you do the right part right at the beginning, it's easy the rest of the way.
So you've used automations for communication. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, just making sure that they're from that standpoint, just talking to them, trying to make sure that they know. So these Customer for Life visits, we are showing them a vision. They're happy with how their property is being maintained, but we're showing them a vision of what they could do to take it to the next level. I mean, anyone can mow, blow, and go and have the place look okay. But if you can kind of sell them on the next step of their landscaper and showing them the next step, that's the important part. And sometimes it's a picture, sometimes it's painting it out on the ground, sometimes it's just communicating with them in person in an in-person meeting.
Well, I appreciate that actually. But tell me about the automations. Just for example, a typical comprehensive client using you for everything. How many automated communication touches would they get in a year?
They're getting one after every service. They're letting know who serviced their properties, what service that they did, and all the details about that. They're getting like post aeration. They're getting watering details. This is what we recommend as far as watering. How long? What's going on? We have frequently asked questions sent out to them monthly. We're just trying to be preemptive on a lot of this stuff. So like what to expect with aeration overseeding, what to expect with our transition from mowing to leaf removal in the fall, what to expect when we're mulching, or we're coming into mulching season. Just trying to be preemptive on some of these things to let people know that, hey, this is, I'm trying to eliminate the questions. That's my why. I'm trying to eliminate them having to be like, I don't understand. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? If I'm communicating the entire process before they need to know, they already have that information.
So you said you send out monthly FAQs proactively. I think I understand what you mean, but give me an example.
So, like I said, we're getting ready to jump into aeration overseeding season. So we let them know, hey, we're coming into aeration overseeding season. This is roughly the timeline that we perform this service. This is what to be expected. This is what is expected of you prior to us being there. These are, we let you know that, hey, we're going to aerate between this time. We're not going to mow it for the next 2 weeks after that. We will come by and, take care of your weeds and blow off your hard surfaces and make sure everything's good. But we want to explain to them the process of how long seed takes to germinate. So they're not like, hey, I don't see anything. We put your grass seed in 2 days ago. It's not going to happen that quick.
So you're doing it ahead versus after you've done the service.
We're doing it ahead and after. You know what I mean? They don't read everything, so you gotta be on top of it.
I've always said, in my experience in customer service, the hardest thing, or actually the second hardest thing to do, is to be completely responsive. If you can do that, you're going to stand head and shoulders above all other service providers. But that's the second hardest thing. The hardest thing to do is to proactively communicate with your clients and reduce their need to even call you. And it sounds to me like you do pretty good at both of those.
We're trying. We for the longest time, we didn't have anyone who answered the phones. So if we could eliminate the frustration of people, and I understand that is a whole different can of worms there, but if we can eliminate them having to have the questions, more people are happy because they understand it in the first place. So yeah, it's been a challenge. And honestly, this was a push from our account managers because they were getting overrun by questions.
Mm.
And they were getting swamped by questions. So I'm like, all right, that means I'm not communicating enough to make sure that, we need to communicate better to our clients that this is what's happening.
Yeah. I'm going to give you a little compliment here. And again, we've worked along pretty intensely together, but I'm still learning little pieces about you here. So I think you do a great job of being the client advocate, and that a visionary who starts a business generally always thinks about the client and how they perceive things. But not all founders are great at that. And you seem to do a really good job of, as you're developing technologies and things, you've always got the client's best interest. What are they really going to think about this? And uh, I think that's so key. And I think it's almost a lost art. A lot of people are just defaulting to, technology. And they may have started the business with that thought in mind, but the fact that you're doing the equal parts high touch, high tech, and keeping in mind always, I love that. They fall on their keyboard and they set up an appointment.
Yeah.
I think everybody listening should really think about who's advocating consistently and constantly for the client as you develop anything in your business, incentive systems, technologies, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you can't farm that out, Craig Attkisson.
I understand that. It's still a challenge. But I enjoy it. What would I want? What would I want in this? If I was the customer, what would I want? That's how I approach it.
You and I have worked together, and you came already doing this, but really working on this team first atmosphere with profit sharing, incentive programs, benefits. Share a bit about what you've put together.
Yeah, so we have I think 2 years ago, we started the profit sharing program. We laid out, we enrolling this out, we kind of explained to our crews or had them do the penny game. So they kind of figure out, they tell us how much they think that we made in profit at the end of the year. One of our guys said that we made 43% profit, according to his little sheet that he filled out.
Yeah.
And I wish that was the case. And it was a great communication tool to kind of say, hey, listen, when we did this, we were at 6% profit, and explain to them where everything goes. They don't need to know all the details of how the sauce is made, but they need to know the big numbers just to kind of understand that. Last year, we moved it from 6 to 9.2. We're on track for 12 point something this year. So we're moving in the right direction. And I think everyone's pulling a sled. The best part about that conversation was the next day. The lowest person on the totem pole, the lowest person, came to me and said, what can I do to raise this up so we can make more profit? And that was the best conversation I've had in this company ever. It was amazing to see that the message got across that, listen, if we're all pulling this sled together, we're going to get further than if I'm pulling it and everyone else is just on board. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The key to this whole thing, I have realized, is communication the whole way through. there's going to be months that are not good, and you need to explain that and help them understand, because they think that every month should be a wildly profitable month and it's just going to bump the numbers up every time. But if you have 3 payrolls in a month, it makes it very challenging to be profitable in that month versus other times. So it's challenging, but I have found that the more communication that we are doing about the profit sharing, the better off we are.
So what was your answer to the gentleman?
I said, in your world, what you're doing, try to hit. He was a team member on a team. You're budgeted versus actual that you need to hit on every single job. Do what you can do. Make sure your quality is high. Make sure that our clients are wildly happy, because if they're wildly happy, they're going to recommend us to others. And then this is just a big snowball that the more work we have, the more we can get done, the more we can sell, the more profitable we can be. So that was, everyone has a different role in the company. So you got to kind of adapt to each role, what they can control. So in that situation, that was what he can control.
Yeah. What else are you doing in your team forward approach in terms of benefits and motivation?
Yeah. So we do an incentive program where they can get, it's broken out individually currently. We may change this in the future, but individually it's broken out that if you are present the entire week, if you were on time every single day in the week, if I can bill out for 80% of what I'm paying you for, and if you do good quality work, there's no complaints, there's of all these quality checks, there's nothing wrong there, you can get more money every single week.
In my old company, we called that Hero of the Week. I'm sure I probably shared that with you, which is where you got part of this. Everybody can be a hero.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes back to what we were just talking about. Control what you can control. Some of these things, honestly, is a layup. Show up to work, be on time, do good quality work, and hit your hours. Honestly, it's all a layup.
Yeah.
But it's in a different world.
Craig, not everybody had the same upbringing where that was somehow ingrained in them.
Yeah.
That makes you the parent in their professional life.
I don't have any kids, so I guess that works out. That checks out.
I think it's like when people join the Marines, right? Some go because they get that structure and that ability to rise up and be somebody greater. And so it sounds like you are providing that.
Yeah, I enjoy. I took what you said at heart. I don't need to know what's going on in the day to day. I don't need to know who's scheduling what to do what. I've got guys for doing that. But it's very important for me to talk to our guys about their life. So in the mornings, I'm running around the shop like, hey, what's going on? How's your wife doing after her surgery? All the personal stuff. I'm not talking about what you got on your schedule today. Honestly, I don't know. But I need to. I'm trying to form a relationship with every one of these guys. I feel like that's one of my roles is to be, I don't know if you call it a culture king, but at least be connect with the people in the company so they know. Sometimes there's a disconnect from my position to their position.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to bridge that gap by making they've got problems. I've got problems that I'm dealing with. They're wildly different, but I want them to know that we're all dealing with stuff along the way. So
anything else? This is an important topic, the team first atmosphere. Anything else you're doing?
No, I'm trying to, we're in a big process of, one of our goals, our long-term goals, is to be an employee-run company from top to bottom. And I realized if that's one of our goals, well, let me back up. We have 9 programs that we're using currently to run our company. I took the cheap way. Financially, it is a cheaper option to run all these different programs in separate silos. But the one number that I'm not calculating in there is the human capital time used to transfer data in between the two and the frustration between all of them. So we're combining all that into one aspect. So how this plays to our team is, if our goal is to be a employee-run company from top to bottom, there was no way that I was going to teach every person that I'm trying to promote in the company 9 programs.
Yeah.
That would be my permanent job. So I got to hit the simple button. I need to fall on the simple button and say, hey, how can I have one program that everyone understands? I can have a couple champions for it, and then we can always just use this program as a catalyst to go forward and not be so broken up in silos.
Gotcha. You're a member of my peer group community. Mm-hmm. You're the upcoming host. You have everyone coming to your shop, which is brand new, right? You just built a new shop.
Yep.
You've been to a couple of these events, right? So far.
Yep.
How are you? Are you excited?
I'm excited. We're in the middle of this transition, and I haven't honestly thought about it a ton, but we are super excited. I have gone to a lot of your events and other consultants' events, and where you go to people's places and they learn from you and you learn from them. I'm excited to see and learn and grow from people going through our stuff. You know what I mean? I'm excited and terrified at the same time.
Is your new shop finished?
It is. This has been a labor of love. Again, this is another aspect of how a partner has helped in this scenario. Sometimes I'm so swamped I could never do it. And real estate is not my deal. But one of my partners loves real estate. He's looking at real estate transactions in the paper every single day. Loves it. Loves it, loves it, loves it. So from that standpoint, he found these pieces of property for both of our shop locations. And we built a shop in Williamsburg. And my other partner in Williamsburg was the contractor on that. My partner found a piece of land in Richmond after looking for 6 years, and then he was a contractor to build that. I would never have the bandwidth or the knowledge or the drive or any of that, but that's how kind of partnerships, they bring different things to the table. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yes, we're very excited. It's up and running. It's great. It's a 10,000 square foot building on 6 acres, and we are literally in the perfect 15-mile radius of everything that we do. We're the best placed landscaper in Richmond.
How much bigger is it than your old place?
Well, our old place was my family farm. So we had one pole barn that had 3 bays in it and an old hay barn. Mm-hmm. And that's where we had everything stored out. Honestly, the biggest concern, we could have been there for a long time, but the biggest concern I have is my house is right there too. Mm-hmm. And you need a separation of church and state type situation where I felt guilty, even though I had worked a 12-hour day, walking out to the garden, because I got crews coming in and out, even late at night. And they see me just walking to the garden. It's like, hey, I've been working all day and he's just playing in his garden. They don't know any different. So I'm glad that it's moved off the family farm. So it gives me a little bit of peace of mind that I'm not always being watched at my own house.
No matter how big a contractor builds their new place, unless they've hugely scaled it for renting, it's amazing how quickly they grow to capacity. It's like that Dr. Seuss book where you put the fish into the bigger fish bowl. So yep. How long do you think you will remain? How long before you reach capacity in your new place?
I think we've built it with 6 acres. There's a decent amount of space inside, and we also have contingents where we can have other pads and build other structures on the site that was already part of the site plan. So we anticipated some future growth and maybe future outside storage. It seems very luxurious right now because we have plenty of space. but I have a feeling that we're going to fall into your situation where I'm hoping that we grow into it. We get we expand, but I think it's going to last us for a while. I mean, we were running off of 2 acres, and this is 6 acres, so I think we're sitting pretty good.
It'll be interesting to see what our peer group guests say to you about all that. What's your big, we always have the host come up with 1 or 2 or 3, but at least one big, area of focus that you want the group to help you with. And so what is that?
Yeah, so we just came back from your summit, and Will talked about the largest thing that I took away. I mean, there's a lot of great takeaways from the summit, but the thing that keeps resonating in my head is Will put up a picture of Phil Jackson drawing out a play. And I think I have been doing this wrong in the past, where I am trying to build the play around the people versus drawing the play first.
Yeah.
And putting the people into it. So for the peer group that's coming, I'm looking for help with, on the production side of things, how our org chart is laid out. Currently, we have a model that is great and got us to here. So, for example, all of our maintenance clients in Richmond have one account manager. That's 500 some people under one person, and then he has a production manager underneath him. If he wasn't an A+ player, he would not be able to manage that many people and do what he's doing. But this model is unsustainable if we continue to grow, as we continue to grow.
Yeah.
So I need to break this up to where there's multiple account managers, and they're in charge of maybe the customer relations, the selling, the enhancements, the scheduling of the crews, all in kind of smaller chunk silos, if that makes sense. So concepts like that, that's what I want, a deep dive on the production side, how it's set up, and aspects around that.
Excellent. So when we started consulting and then coaching 2 years ago, I put you immediately into one of our groups, I believe, or, pretty close. Share with the audience what your experience has been in one of our Leaders Edge peer groups.
The peer group is the magic sauce. It's the thing that makes this jive. If I've got a question at any point, I shoot it out to on my walks in the morning, and I have this crazy left field idea. I'll shoot it out on the text and see who's like, all right, that's left field, or that's awesome. You know what I mean? Kind of running stuff past people, learning the numbers and having accountability for the numbers, and seeing how others, match up against the guardrails that are given, which really is super helpful to know, man, I'm left field here, or I know that I'm left field, but I know why I'm left field. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In more specifically, the pod groups, I'm actually in 2 pods. So I meet every week with a pod that meets every other, they rotate every other week. I get a lot of personal, we go through our trials and tribulations, and those relationships are awesome. I mean, those things are, you can throw anything out and you're getting a different perspective from someone who's not in competition with you on something that's, I have learned so much that are people who are running different programs than I am, or people who are using a different system than I am. It has been very valuable to me to have those relationships and not feel like I'm alone on an island. Because my position, sometimes you can feel like yes, I have partners, but they bring different things to the table. But I need someone who is dealing with some of the same struggles I'm dealing with, and I'd love their feedback on how they could solve it. And I don't need to reinvent the wheel all the time. I can learn from others, and that's one of the big things that I'm taking from the peer group.
Yeah. And your facilitator is Lorena.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Any shout outs for her?
Yeah, Lorena does a great job. Really enjoy. Her and I have been building a new building kind of on the same timeline. So we've been sharing a lot of those stories and trials and tribulations, because it's never easy. But she has a lot of wisdom. Even running a slightly smaller business than we do, she has a lot of wisdom on the dynamics, the numbers, and it gives a lot of insight to. I mean, honestly, once you're a numbers whiz, once you understand what the numbers mean and why, you can help out anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to know your numbers. I don't care what size businesses are. You have to know your numbers.
Yeah.
And that is so. Honestly, before I met you, I didn't know my numbers, and now
Yeah.
I could help anybody with them because I feel so confident in them.
Yeah. You're in a rarefied space in terms of your ability to take time away from your business. Lorena takes off, more time than you from her business. She works for me. She's a ski instructor. I mean, she got some hobbies.
Yeah,
And then Will Seiler, whose name you mentioned just a few minutes ago, who spoke at our Summer Growth Summit, lives in a whole different state, and he goes to visit his business. And you're not you're sort of the opposite of that. You leave for chunks of time and then come back. But that type of perspective is invaluable. What
yeah.
Share with the audience like an aha you had. You came back after being a month away. What is that first week back like?
That is the biggest growth week that there is. I'm coming back super energized, super. I've got a lot of energy. I'm refreshed. I'm coming back super calm. I get a list of things that they didn't know how to do, which is perfect. That's my playbook for what I got to fix for the next time I'm gone.
Hmm.
This is what I got to figure out. I recently got a cabin in West Virginia, and I spend a lot when I'm not traveling. I have been doing a lot of remote work in West Virginia, and while it's the same concept, but I'm not there. You know what I mean? So you got to kind of build systems in place to make sure that everyone's still working together. Everyone gets the knowledge that they need to have. We still have our leadership meetings on Tuesday. We still do our all hands meeting on Wednesday. So these are things that we have in place. We still do our one-to-ones with all my managers to make sure that even though I'm not there, I'm still caring about them. I'm still listening to them. I'm still
Wait,
helping with their
not
problems.
on your vacation, but when you work remotely.
When I work remotely, correct? Not on vacation. There's something special about a month vacation, and I think this is important to understand. About week 3, if you fully remove yourself from the business, week 3, you have so much clarity. It is amazing. It happens every single time. About week 3 to 4, in that range, you're like, what do I need to be? Forget everything. What is the most important 3 things I need to do?
Hmm.
And that's it. I came back from Australia, and that's why I say it actually helps our company by me leaving, because I get so much clarity. Sometimes you're so deep in it that you don't know what's going on. I mean, you're in it and you know what's going on, but you're just too deep.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to pull out, see the big picture, and like, all right, this is all great, and this is a problem, but here's the 3 things for the next quarter that I need to be focusing on.
Yeah.
And that's how I use you as coaching now. You kind of give me the Karens out in front of me that I'm running towards,
Yeah.
that we're kind of working together towards,
So here's what I heard you say. It takes me 2 weeks to decompress. And on the third week, that's when the clarity happens. Most people here think a 2 week vacation. Wow, now I'm at the big time. But what I'm hearing you say, and I remember that when I was working in the business, that for me it was like that first week was I didn't enjoy the first week. That was decompression. And you're saying full decompression takes 2 weeks. That's interesting point there, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It takes time. As a small business owner, you don't understand how much stress and frustration that you are holding on to that you have no idea.
Yeah. You
And
gave me an awesome compliment at not this past event, but the event before. And you said something like, God, when I come to your events, I actually have to look up stuff. pull out my Google and gain some perspective on what I'm just learning versus when I went to other people's events, it was like rehash. That really stuck with me. I really appreciate that. So tell me, what did you have to look up or what caught your attention last week at our Summer Growth Summit?
I really enjoy the pre-event, the pre-event. You had multiple speakers there. Some of them were professional speakers, some of them were not. The two landscapers, Will was one, and I don't remember the other man's name, but Derek. Their stories were so relatable. Not that it's happened to me, but I can visualize myself in those stories more than anything else I took away from this. It was the landscaper has a situation, how they handle the situation, the bumps in the road that they had along with dealing the situation, and where they came out on the other side. For both of them. For not being professional speakers, like that is the goal, to see how they thought through the process and deconstructed it. It's so great to know and take away stuff like that. I think it was phenomenal. So those are some of the things that you don't get. Some of those things. Sometimes you bring in an A-list celebrity to give a great speech about something phenomenal. But I need the good old boys. I need the people that are boots on the ground, are in it. They're doing it just like me.
Yeah.
And those relatable stories are gold to me.
I appreciate that feedback. I spent a lot of time with those two good old boys. Their egos probably got a little beat up in the beginning. Here's my first draft. And I'm like, well, and so me and them spent a lot of time preparing for that big moment, and they crushed it.
They absolutely did. It was so relatable. And so, like, some of these things, I was getting teary-eyed in a landscape conference, which that's how emotionally invested I was in their situation that they were just talking about. That tells me everything I needed to know.
Yeah. Derek Wells was the second speaker from Wells. I think it's Wells Lawn Care in Indiana, and Will Seiler's Landscaping in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of great speakers, but for sure they crushed it.
Absolutely. I always get a lot from that. I mean, the event, going to see an established business with all their systems, and I mean, $80+ million of Ryan Lawn and Tree, phenomenal. It's a little bit hard to relate, as I'm a $5 million business compared to an $80 million, but those, it's awesome to see and aspire to be some of that in the future. But having relatable stories on the front side of landscapers that are in the trenches roughly at my same level is phenomenal.
Yeah. All right. That's very good feedback. So before we hang up here, let's talk about some hobbies. I like to mountain bike. You like to mountain bike. I think you're better than me because you get up at 4 a.m. and you have the most intense workout. You have some contraption on your wall that helps you work out. Explain what that is.
Yeah. So personal health is one of my wife and I's, I guess you'd call it a hobby. We get up every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, and either we're lifting weights on one day, and the following day we do some kind of cardio. So, we have a tonal machine that you've probably seen the LeBron James commercials with him on this tonal machine. Phenomenal. I own a lot of machines. This is not a commercial. I'm not a paid sponsor, but they are phenomenal for keeping up resistance training.
So tonal is the weightlifting, or it's different?
No, it is the weightlifting. It's resistance training. So it is a phenomenal piece of machinery. Every time we do the tonal, we step into the sauna. We have a sauna at our house, so we spend some time in the sauna.
Oh, my wife's gonna love hearing this little bit here. She's like, I think we need a sauna at our cabin in Georgia. I'm like, really?
It's phenomenal. We did it this morning. It's pretty incredible. And then every day that we do cardio, whether I'm on a bike trainer, I'm rucking outside, or just going for a walk, doesn't matter. we jump in the cold plunge after we do any kind of cardio that day. So
Mm.
it's kind of rotates back and forth. I do enjoy mountain biking. I used to be really big into ultra endurance mountain biking. I completed the Shenandoah 100 a couple times, which is going over 6 mountains, 1,400 feet of climbing.
Where is it?
It's called the Shenandoah 100. It's in the Shenandoah Mountains.
Okay.
It's kind of in that same series as the Leadville bike race type situation. So it's big time. I have resigned myself to playing in the fun category when it comes to biking now. We have a cabin that, like I said, in West Virginia. It is right on the Greenbrier River Trail, 77 miles of endless trail. As long as I want to ride, I can ride. No cars. That's living to me.
I just bought an e-mountain bike, and I may have mentioned this on another podcast, but my wife and I went to France. We rented just e-bikes, and I was a snob before. I'm like, I was just a snob. I just thought it was for lazy people, etc. And we had so much fun. You don't bike less, you bike further. And we were able to go up these big hills in Burgundy, up through the vineyards, into towns far away, and we biked back in this driving rain, but we didn't care because we had a little bit extra power. So even though we were totally soaked, we had like this extra energy about us. And so I just bought an e-mountain bike. And the same thing, my son came to visit from Germany. I borrowed a bike, we used mine. And we didn't bike less, but we biked further up through the mountains, and e-biking is a blast, I find. Do you have one?
I don't have one. I have. It's kind of like you said about your building. I Googled how big do I want to build a shop, and it's always whatever you think plus one. You know what I mean? You always want it bigger. You always want X plus one for your bikes. You always want a next bike. I don't have one. I will get there at some point. I think they are very valuable. They say that people who have e-bikes burn as much calories as people who have regular bikes because exactly what you said, they go further, they go longer, and it gives that same calorie burn, which is
Yep.
phenomenal. It makes it more. I'm on the board for the Greenbrier River Trail. It makes it more accessible to people that would maybe not do it, and
Yep.
that's the whole point: is getting out and enjoying nature, spending time with your family and friends. So I think it's a good thing.
Really appreciate your time here, Craig. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm wishing you good luck on the peer group meeting. I'm still going to see if I can come. I want to see this tonal machine. Are you going to bring people to your house?
Absolutely. Our grand finale event is at my house. We're having it catered. You should come.
I'm going to look at my calendar now. I really appreciate you, Craig.
Great. Thank you so much, Jeffrey.